Hey, buddy, Thomas here, and I'm going to go over some interesting things about these two side-by-sides. We're going to do a side-by-side comparison of two side-by-sides. So, if you've seen our channel and everything, my wife and I purchased a Kubota Sidekick. This is the RTVXG850 about 8 months ago. It's been phenomenal for us, and in fact, we actually left it up here during deer season so that my dad can use this for just a few weeks. Because we're going to be coming back to do some more deer hunting and everything. There's a few things he didn't like about it, one of which is the super responsive accelerator. The throttle on this thing is just out of the world. It'll just throw you back and everything. And he has an issue with his ankle where it's kind of fused together, so not really the best fit for him. When he was over bumpy ground, he's kind of jerking all over the place or anything. Also, there was the height getting in and out of it. It is a little bit higher and everything, and for my mom, for taking the dogs, it's kind of a pain to kind of get the dogs in there for her. Some of her dogs are older in age and everything and can't jump up quite as easily. So what my mom just purchased today is the 2021 HPX615E by John Deere. This is essentially, if you've seen the John Deere Gator, this is like the higher end version of the Gator. It does have kind of independent front suspension and almost like a swing arm type of suspension in the rear. Both of these are great, and if you've looked at one, you might be looking at the other because they both kind of fit a need. The Kubota is more of a, utility, on the farm, on the ranch. It has some speed and everything, and you can take it on some trails. It actually would fit on some trails. It is a much larger engine. It's about twice the horsepower. It's a 48 horsepower Subaru engine, which Kubota has now purchased all the tooling equipment and is going to make their engine for themselves. So it does have more power and it does have more speed. The Kubota will do 42 miles an hour, whereas the John Deere tops it at 25. But for my parents, that's absolutely perfect. There's really no issue there. Both of them have very beefy suspensions, and both are quite heavy. I think the Kubota here is about 1,700 pounds, whereas the John Deere here is about 1,500 pounds. Some of the stats are very similar as well, what they can tow. The John Deere, you can have 1,000 pounds in the cargo bed, and it can tow 1,300 pounds. That's pretty comparable to what the Kubota can do as well. So we're going to go through a little walk around. Again, the Kubota is more of a, you can ride some trails, you can get around the farm a little bit faster, but the John Deere at 25 miles per hour, I mean, that's not slow. It's a good little clip. It does have some heavy duty features on it that I like. It doesn't have the double A-arm front end. It has a lower A-arm and there's nothing on the top, whereas the Kubota has an A-arm top and bottom. A little beefier there, but again, more for some of the trail riding and with the higher speeds. The John Deere, it is a carbureted engine, whereas the Kubota is a fuel injected engine. The Kubota, again, has a Subaru, whereas the John Deere has a Kawasaki. The Kawasaki is a liquid cooled. It's either 20 or 21 horsepower. I have to look it up exactly. And then the Kubota is also liquid cooled. This one, if you've seen any other type of Gator, you'll notice this belt here and everything. This is kind of like the drive belt, and it kind of has a CVT type transmission. It continues to increase speed, and the clutch will just kind of move further out as needed to increase that speed. Now, some of the really cool features on here, on the dash, let me turn this thing on so you can see a little bit. The dash actually shows you when you're in two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. So right now we're in two-wheel drive. If I hit this button, you get a little electric solenoid or a little electric motor there that puts it into four-wheel drive, and it actually lights up on the dash panel. Same thing with the rear differential locking, and also you have your lights as well. It does tell you just a few basic things. It tells you what gear you're in. So on the shifter right here, you actually have a park on this model now. In the past, they did not have parks, they'd have a parking brake. You have park, reverse, neutral, high, and low. It also tells you your speed, your fuel, and the number of hours you have on there. So pretty neat. It also does have a little 12-volt little plug right there, so you can plug in whatever you want. It does have kind of like the glove box with no lid on it, so it's an open style glove box. And then underneath the seats do not come up, but underneath the seat, you have this little storage area. There we go. So you could put some manuals or something in there. I'm not exactly sure what that'd be used for, other than maybe some documentation. You do have your shifter kind of there in the middle, as well as your cup holders. The floor plate, it is a bare type of metal. It does have paint and everything on it, but there is no anti-slip material on there. One of the things I think we're going to do is go ahead and do a roll-on bed liner or something like that. Same thing we're going to add to the back and the tailgate area. The dump bed here operates with a lever underneath here, spring loaded. You just bring that out and it just unlocks that lock right there. Very simple design, but you can operate from one side, which is really nice. On the Kubota, you actually have these locking levers, and there are one on each side, so you have to go around to both sides in order to dump the bed. The pneumatic little shock right here does have a decent amount of lift on it, and it seems like it'd be pretty helpful when you're trying to dump out the bed without very much effort put into it. Down below the exhaust right there is the oil filter. It looks like it's very easy to get to, and it has a skid plate below it. That is a metal skid plate, so your engine, oil pan, all that stuff's protected. I do like how they have the inline fuel filter right here. They have a fuel filter there, but you actually have another inline right here, so you can see if you have any gunk in there. Checking the dipstick, really easy to check right there next to your oil fill as well. And your rear, I guess, gearbox right here, if you want to call it that. Really easy to check your oil there as well. Overall, very simple design. And as you can see, when I was talking about the sway arm or the swing arm here in the back, very rigid. You've got like this pivot point on both sides. See on the other side there too. And you've got a spring on either side. Now, one thing is, the springs here, these seem like they're pretty light duty. However, this is really made not to be anything that's going to be for trail riding. If you look on the Kubota over there, the coilovers are a lot heavier duty. This is more for, like, you know, if you don't have a load back here, it will provide you some range of travel, so it will kind of smooth out the load. But this is made to put a lot of weight in the back, so if those bottom out, you know, it's just like the old style Gator. It will then be essentially a solid rear end, excuse me. Very solid, very large bed here. As you can see, I've got these side-by-sides pretty well lined up from front to back. As you can see, on the front, they're both pretty normal. Everything, the seats and everything line up. But what the John Deere does have, it does have a little bit larger bed and a deeper bed. The Kubota bed is about 10 inches deep, whereas just because of this extra rail here on top, you're sitting more like the 12-inch mark. Now, the bed is metal down here and then plastic on your sidewalls. It does have these little metal tabs here in the corners where you can tie things down, as well as you can tie things down on these metal bars right here. So I like that. Very deep bed. Also, one cool feature, if you've seen Gators in the past, they have a locking mechanism on either side to open the tailgate, much like what we have in the Kubota. Locks on either side. This one right here, just like on your truck, a center one that comes down. And another cool little feature, it's something little, nothing much, but you do have a nice scale right here. So you got 45 inches to work with. So if you're measuring redfish, you want to see if it's over 30 inches, you can put a redfish out there, whatever. The fact that they give you something like that is pretty handy. So there we go, it's locked in place. On the Kubota, and we do have a deer hide in the back here. Again, it's all metal all the way around, and then the plastic is where the actual color scheme is on. Both of these do have front and rear receivers that are standard size. And if you look at the back end here, you'll notice that they're both pretty heavy duty. Now, the Kubota is independent, all four-wheel suspension, whereas the John Deere is independent front, again with the swing arm on the back. Now, what it does have, though, is if you see right down there, the shaft that goes all the way through, your drive shaft that's in there, that is a solid cast shaft. That is really heavy. That's really where this thing is going to be very stiff and stout in the rear end. Your exhaust does have a spark arrestor on it, and it kind of does point towards the tire, but doesn't seem to be an issue. Changing out the belts on these, I hear, is really easy as well if you need to do that. Overall, pretty solid fit and finish on both. The John Deere is a little bit larger on the box, as we spoke about, and a little bit easier to get into opening and closing. The height of both of these looks to be very similar. I think the Kubota might be slightly more. Now I'm going to have to do two-handed here. So looking back, I know I'm not exactly on level ground. The Kubota looks to be about 2 inches higher. And the Kubota does look to be a smidge wider, probably a few inches wider too. Well, that's what the stance of it. And overall height-wise, as you can see, the Kubota has a little more height there. Now, one thing I was talking about on getting in and out of, as you can see, I'll do a little comparison here. The Kubota, whenever I get in, it is about halfway up my calf. Whereas on the John Deere, which doesn't have doors, actually has these little things here, it is probably about 3 inches lower. So getting in and out, it's going to be a little bit higher on the Kubota than on the John Deere. And it actually looks like, just looking at the visual comparison, you have a little more foot space on the John Deere than on the Kubota. Now on the Kubota though, you do not have all the console in the center, so you can freely slide over if you need to, whereas in the John Deere you have that console space there. But again, that's somewhere you can put your drink, your cell phone, whatever you want. So, all right, so let's go ahead and get these things rolling down the road, and we'll see kind of how they perform. Stay tuned. All right, so there goes my mom on a new John Deere Gator. And we're gonna go ahead and crank up and follow right behind on the Kubota. Now the Kubota, it takes a second for, I guess, the belt to get tension. The one thing is, the John Deere, the throttle is very, very smooth. It's just very smooth. On the Kubota, that's literally, if you follow my channel and everything and seen some of my videos, the throttle on this is kind of overly sensitive. So, I mean, it'll just kind of throw you around really easy. Now, I think there is a kit that they have where they change it up, but I will say on that John Deere, it's very smooth. And as you can see, they've got plenty of room. Even if my dad was in there, they had plenty of room, but they both have the seatbelts on. Daniel's having a blast riding in there. It's a very quiet machine, both of them. They're not overly loud, and just overall smooth. Now the John Deere does not have power steering, whereas this Kubota, I mean, it's got the same kind of steering you find in a Toyota vehicle. It's very, very smooth steering. The John Deere, not really an issue because, again, it's not a trail side-by-side. It's made for on the farm, just like what my mom's doing here. It has enough room. I think I'm going to check it out here, how many bales of hay we can put in the back. I think we could easily put 2 side by side and then have a little bit more room to put maybe 2 more high, and then being very stable. So other than that, pretty happy the way it looks. I'll go ahead and do a side view. It's the fit and finish again on both of these are really nice. That John Deere though, that color scheme, my mom's a big fan of it, and she's had John Deeres for many years. On the other hand, I've been running some Kubota stuff here, especially diesel engines on my sawmills, and I've gone to Kubota and Massey Ferguson, but I grew up using all the John Deeres. Again, very attractive looking side by side, and it's very quiet and very smooth. Again, perfect application for my parents here on the farm, going to and from the barn, checking on the horses, and taking the dogs out, rather than my mom drive her new Honda Passport. She can drive this Gator around and get the experience of driving around the farm and all that good stuff. So I did some testing this earlier as well. It does 25 miles per hour. Now we did hit 26 miles per hour going up the hill with it once. That's in high gear. In low gear, you are limited to about 12 miles per hour. But again, low gears, if you're towing something heavy, going up and down, hills with a load, stuff like that. And in reverse, it does 14 miles per hour. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But as you see, we have a mile-long driveway, and this handles the drive in the hills no problem. When I did my initial testing with this, and I'll show it in the video, I had kids and dogs and stuff in the vehicle with me, and I'm a rather large dude, so no problem getting up to speed and up and down these hills. All right, so stay tuned. We'll do some more here shortly. Okay, everybody, I am actually now in the John Deere. As you can see, I'm 6'4", and I have quite a bit of clearance between. Now, one thing, the steering column here and the wheel is not adjustable. This is a fixed location. If I was to put my legs up underneath here, yes, it would make contact, but I don't sit that way. It would be very uncomfortable. So it does have this nice big pocket area, and then as well as underneath the seat, there's a little area, I guess you could store your manual and stuff like that. My parents did opt to get the plexiglass windscreen, and then the really nice, I like the roof on top here, it's really nice. Okay, for starting, let's see if I can show hours. So it doesn't, so hours are 0.4, because we just got this thing. And I do like this little digital display here. We just filled it up and everything. It tells me I don't have my seatbelt on. And it tells me if I'm in two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. Two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive are changed by this little switch right here. Also, you have a switch here for your rear locking differential, and you have a switch here for your lights. You also do have a 12-volt little cigarette lighter type of deal here, so that's pretty nice. But for starting, you just turn the key to the on position and then turn to the start position. Cranks right up. Now, it does not show RPM or anything. It just shows you what gear you're in, what mode of drive you're in, four-wheel drive or two-wheel drive, your fuel, and your hours and your speed. Your shifter right here, so apparently new on this model, is it does have a park, then reverse, neutral, high, and low. And as you go through, there's park, there's reverse. I'll go ahead and reverse this thing out of here. It does tell you speed in reverse, which is pretty nice, I guess. There we go. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and go into high. So one more time goes to neutral. And then now to high. Now the speedometer, not the speedometer, the foot throttle right here, I like that. It's actually pretty smooth. I mean, it's very smooth. And I think it's part of the transmission on this. I mean, as you can see, lightly engage it, and it gets up and goes. Even if you go over some bumps and everything, it doesn't really do anything. You don't really change speed a whole lot. Alright, so we're just climbing the hill. We'll go ahead and speed up to about 25. Gradual acceleration, which is perfect for our driveway here. I got the kids with me, so they're having a good old time. But I'm doing a task that my parents would typically do. It's going up to the barn or going to drop off trash at the road. It handles really nice. Now, one thing that is different, there is no power steering. This is actually all mechanical and human interaction. There's no mechanical or no hydraulic steering. Not really an issue. Now we're about to go down a big hill here, so I want to see what it does. We're going on the hill. If I'll go over 25 or if it'll slow me down. So it kind of like wants to slow 26. It kind of has a sensation of it's trying to slow you down a little bit. So pretty nice. It is actually smoother than I thought it would be. It's not too loud. Now we're in high. This is a steep part of the hill. It still maintains 18, 19. 18 miles per hour up the steepest part of our driveway here. That's pretty good. Our driveway here is a mile long, and it handles it with ease. I'm pretty happy with the way it handles it. Hold on to those. And see, now we're just going down to the end of the driveway, and we're gonna go ahead and drop off the trash. All right, so we've dropped off the trash, and now we're gonna do a speed run, if you wanna call it that. I just wanna see how fast we can get up the driveway. Now, this is not a machine for acceleration or for high-end speed, but I'm gonna go ahead and floor it and see what we got. So I got up the hill. It was not a speed demon or anything like that, but it is a very smooth transition as it accelerates. This will be perfect for my parents. The main thing they're going to use this for is going to and from the barn. Every once in a while I'll use it to get a deer out of the woods or something like that. And also my mom's going to carry her dogs around, so she doesn't have to put them in her Honda Passport. Because they shed hair and they get all over the place. So actually, let's go ahead and do this hill right here in low gear. So we're in high. Sorry, it's kind of hard to see with all the dust. So high, and we're gonna go ahead and put it into low. There we go. Sorry, I was trying to figure out what to do there. So it's in low gear, and let's see what low gear tops out at. Pulling this hill. About 11 miles an hour. 12. So I guess low gear tops out about 12 miles per hour. Now I am going up a hill, but this would be good if I was towing out a deer out of the woods or something to that effect. Let me go ahead and put it back into high. Yep, you can go and let Annie out. There we go. Now, we're gonna let the little dog out here. It does have these little net things right here for doors. That would actually keep some kids in, I guess. But we got Annie in front of us. She's gonna be a turd and try to get in my way. There we go. She's running, so I can outrun the dog. It's a big plus. So yeah, so far I think this is going to be a perfect fit for my parents. It is not real fast. It is very smooth. But yeah, I think it's going to work out very well. I'll continue to do some more here in a second when we work on some other stuff. Okay, so here's another little weird one. We are in reverse. How fast can this thing go in reverse? Now we are in high, I guess it's only one gear. It's like 14 miles an hour. That's decently fast for reverse, so we'll count that as that's a pretty good speed in reverse. I need to check that out with my Kubota and see what it does. Come here, Annie. All right, so we're gonna see if we can actually outrun or outpace the dog here. Yep. Barely got ahead of her, but we did. Yep. So, again, I think this will be a perfect fit for my parents for the need on the farm here. Getting to and from a location, occasionally carrying a deer out of the woods. My mom will be using a whole lot to carry the dogs back and forth to the barn, and also carrying bales of hay. Now, the bed on this is larger than what's on the Kubota Sidekick, so that's pretty cool. And the walls of the bed on this actually do come off, which is pretty nice. So we're driving right now. I've got my son in the back, my daughter in the front, and Annie is way back there behind us. But this will actually, I believe, fit the need for what my parents have. It's very that is liquid cooled, so I do like that aspect. It is carbureted, so it doesn't have the direct injection or the fuel injection like our Kubota, but it actually has cranked up perfectly each time. And with a Kawasaki engine, that's actually a pretty reliable engine. So, sorry I didn't put it in front of the camera there. We'll do some more shooting and more tests with this here shortly.